Good afternoon. It's once again 5:30 on a Friday, and of course I am delighted to be here. As a matter of fact, I just jumped off the airplane a few minutes ago, and I can't say that I dashed, because I didn't want to be dashing with it being hazy and all that kind of stuff. But I did make my way, as Reverend Bowers would say. I pressed my way on out, and I'm here. And there are a lot of good and wonderful things going on in the city of Chicago. But even before I get to Chicago, let me mention the fact that, of course, this week we have all been involved in the intrigue of the possibility of the escalation of war and warlike activity. But, so far, things have been subdued just a little bit, and I'm pleased with that, and so I'm pleased to know that. But the House of Representatives did, in fact, pass a war-limiting resolution, that is to limit the president's military actions regarding Iran. And there have been a lot of ways we've been attempting to do that. Of course, we always have this argument and this debate and this discussion about what is war. And of course, we all know that technically only the Congress can initiate war. But we've had presidents who initiate police action or who take warlike matters into their own hands. There are scholars who would suggest that the last time there has been a full declaration of war was in World War II, and that even the Korean conflict was not a full declaration of war. And of course, whatever president has done things, the invasion of Cuba by the U.S., President Kennedy. We've had actions by, of course, Republicans and Democrats. That debate, I think, is probably going to continue for a bit until ultimately we may get a clear-cut resolution of what war is versus police action or versus protecting the national interests. And who can do that? Presidents always maintain that as chief executive, as the main man, as the head honcho, they have a responsibility to protect the interests of the United States of America, protect the security of the United States of America, and as such, that gives them the authority to do certain things. I see I've got a caller, so I'm going to stop for a moment and go right to the phone and take this caller, and then I'll be right back with you. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, how you doing, Congressman Davis?
I am good, Brother James. How are you?
Okay, God go deal with the people in the media. Now, when Donald Trump did take that general out, now I did not hear people in the media call Donald Trump a suspect, and they always call other people a suspect. They do not call Donald Trump a suspect, and they do not call police a suspect, and that's wrong. God go deal with them, Congressman Davis.
Well, I think many people are suggesting that while they don't call Qasem Soleimani any kind of saint or good guy, but they are not jumping up and down because they're not sure what the repercussions will be. I'm saying it's hard to know what's going to happen sometimes until it does. And so we still don't know
Okay.
what may happen as a result. And so there's a debate. Some people think that we are safer and more secure with the general being assassinated or killed. There are others who think that we're still waiting to see what the reaction is going to be. Just as
What?
there are people who are saying that the airplane that crashed with the Ukrainians and lots of other people on it maybe it's just coincidental that it crashed. But then there are other people who believe that there may have been something going on, that maybe it was shot down, maybe it was hit. And until some of the investigatory actions are completed, I guess the real deal is we just won't know. And we have to. Everybody believe different things, and depending on who you talk to, and that's what America is supposed to be, the kind of country where people think things through and arrive at an approach to dealing with them. And that's kind of what we do, and try to see what happens, and that's just the way it is. And so we'll have to see what takes place.
Y'all have a
But
good weekend.
okay, thank you, James, and you're on it, and stay on it. And we always enjoy your perspective, your thoughts about these things, and what's going on. Well, as I was about to say and about to get into, of course, there are a lot of things going on in Chicago. And of course, there are giants who have fallen. And one of those giants, of course, is Mr. Richard Barnett, who passed away. And Richard's mass is going to be tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. There's a viewing tonight at the Rayner, A.A. Rayner Funeral Home at 71st Street, 330 East 71st Street. And of course, the funeral will be tomorrow at St. Columbanus Catholic Church, right across from the funeral home. There's also another funeral that is tomorrow. My dear and good friend, Mr. Hubert Reynolds, who was an active member of the Character Centenary AME Church. I've known him and his wife, I guess, for 40 plus years. And Hubert was just an outstanding gentleman, an Army veteran, Air Force veteran, worked for the Federal Aviation Administration, helped a lot of young people know that jobs were there, and helped them come out and apply, and they got jobs. And so our condolences go out to Miss Sandra Reynolds and other members of their family. And his funeral is going to be tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Well, the wake's at 10, and the funeral is at 11, and that's going to be at 15th and Homan, 1448 South Homan. There are other things that are going on, and I know during this week coming up, of course, are the activities relative to Dr. Martin Luther King. The city of Chicago, that is the mayor, it's always the mayor's breakfast. Annual interfaith breakfast is going to be Friday at the Marriott Marquis in Chicago, the Grand Horizon Ballroom at 2121 South Prairie Avenue. And I'm going to try my level best to be there because one of the honorees is going to be one of the most respected people that I know, Dr. Mildred Harris, who is the head of God First Ministries, but she is also one of the commissioners on the board of the Chicago Housing Authority. And I always say that she is the main advocate on that board for the residents. And it just happened that her husband, who passed away not too long ago, in his 90s, Dr. Herbert Harris, he and I went to the same undergraduate school, not at the same time, but he was an active member of our alumni association up to the point I was honored and privileged to attend his funeral services and be asked to make some remarks there. And I look forward to Dr. Harris being feted at the annual Dr. Martin Luther King celebration. Also, one of the members of my staff, her nephew died the other day, and so our condolences go out to Miss Josie Ware on the death of her nephew. Of course, next Sunday, I am looking forward to a celebration that's going to take place at my church, the church that I attend as a member. We're going to celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and that's going to be a celebration that we are doing with the Midwest Baptist District Association and the By the Hand Club, as well as a number of other people and elected individuals. It's going to be at 3:30. It's going to be a great program featuring young people, old people, and other people. And so I am personally inviting everybody to the New Galilee Missionary Baptist Church. And for those who didn't know it, I do hold membership in a church, and I've been a member of that church probably for about 40 years, or some close to it, and that kind of thing. And hey, we'd be delighted to have you. So if you're not doing something next Sunday, 3:30, come on out and join us as we celebrate the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And just a lot of good stuff going on. If you want to give us a call and join in the conversation now, you can call us at 312-738-1060. And if you can't think of anything else you want to talk about, tell us how you are going to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King. Or tell us, if you want, what impact you think that Dr. Martin Luther King may have had, and whether or not you think your life is different or better than it was or would have been before, or whether or not you had anything at all to do with Dr. King. I tell you, for me, it was a heady time. It started while I was a high school student, and so I was engaged, and then I went to college, and we were engaged. I was in Arkansas at the time, and of course we had the big fight in Little Rock with the Little Rock Nine, and with individuals going to Little Rock Central or Central High School. The year that they integrated that school, I was a freshman in college, and our college was just a few miles from Little Rock, and so every day we got a full report on what was going on. And I remember my mother who really liked Minnie Jean Brown, who was the student that seemingly would get in trouble at school every day. And she'd always want to hear the news and know what Minnie Jean did. So those were heady times. And fortunately, as I came to Chicago and lived in the same neighborhood where Dr. King came and lived, by then I was a young school teacher and totally caught up, as many of us were, in the movement. And as a matter of fact, some days we didn't want to go to sleep at night because we didn't want to miss what was taking place, what was going on. And of course, I had the good fortune to meet Dr. King. I had the good fortune to be engaged in some of the marches and demonstrations, and I it was just a great time. I lived in the North Lawndale community at that time, and of course that's where Dr. King set up shop. And of course I'd get a chance sometimes to go over to Edna's restaurant on Kedzie and Madison. The little place looked like a hole in the wall, but they had some of the best food that you ever. Dr. King would sometimes eat in there, him and his group. I think Dorothy Tillman would get a chance to come in, get her a pork chop. She was pretty skinny at the time and all, but it was just a great period. And so if you remember any of that and want to talk about it, give us a call, 312-738-1060. If you're going to do anything special for the Martin Luther King celebration, I can just think of all kind of things. We were so impressed with Dr. King until some of us even tried to emulate the way Dr. King talked. And we'd say, yeah, I have a dream. It's part of the American dream. And we hold these truths to be self-evident. And all of those things. Well, I think that America is a better place because Dr. King and the movement came this way. And I am so delighted that I was alive at that period and that I was fortunate enough to be engaged, to be involved, to go to the meetings. We'd be looking for where's the next meeting going to be? What is the next topic of conversation? What's going to be the next discussion? And even before I came to Chicago, because the president of our college had the audacity to invite Dr. King to be the commencement speaker one year. Actually, it was the year before I got there. And he was kind of in trouble because it was a state-supported school. And some of the trustees on the board didn't agree with that invitation. Plus some of the members of the state legislature, and that's where the school got its funding from, they'd have to go to the state legislature and ask to get a budget passed. And our president, Dr. Lawrence A. Davis, unfortunately, I was not personally related to him and his family, but as far as we were concerned, all of us were related to him, no matter what your name was. We just called him Prexy, meaning he was our father figure. And of course, we all respected our fathers and so forth. though many of them, most of them, were sharecroppers and people who farmed. And even though we respected President Davis, didn't mean that we diminished in any way. I was reading the paper today, and there was this fellow who's a football player, and he had just purchased his father a house. And he grew up, and he said that there were times when they had to live in their car and sleep in the car. And so he became a professional football player. And I guess after he got his contract, he came from Alabama. He went out and bought his daddy a house. And it was a great story about how much respect that he had for his father, even though there was a period when they were homeless and had to sleep in a car and didn't have a place to stay. And I mean, I felt, if I could, I'd give this guy the Nobel Prize. I'd give he and his father both the Fatherhood Award, because that's what fatherhood really means. I mean, that's what it's about. And there are so many people who've had so many problems and so many difficulties. And so you can't always just tell a book by the cover. And so he was proud to say that his father did everything that he could to keep their family together. And that, yes, there was a period. But in spite of that, and through it all, they still managed to hold on and to hold out. And he was able to purchase for him, his father, a house. And so I thought of a cousin of mine who is also a professional basketball player. And his father called me the other day, and we hadn't spoken since our grandfather died, I think. And we just had ourselves a marvelous, marvelous time. He lives in Greenwood, Mississippi. He is a bishop, as well as any number of other things and all of that. And when his sister called me during the holidays and left a message, but also left my aunt's name, because that's her name. And when she said Lully Glass, and then she gave the rest of her name, I knew exactly who it had to be, because I had never known anybody else named Lully except my mother's youngest sister on her father's side. My mother had about 25 or more brothers and sisters, and so she had different sides. And so people always wonder when I tell them that, how could your mother have that many brothers and sisters and all that? Well, one way was that her mother married a man who had 12 children. His wife had died, and he already had 12 children before my grandmother and he got married. And then my grandfather, my people migrated from Alabama, and my grandparents were actually teenagers. And so he went to Mississippi with his family. Then he got married, and he had about 10 or 12 children. After he got married in Mississippi, caller, go right ahead, because our time is about up.
Hi. Um, there was a man named Clarence Jones. The last position he had was associate professor at Chicago State.
I knew
And I
Clarence
used to,
Jones very well, worked with Clarence Jones, went to meetings with Clarence Jones and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff. And I don't know what happened to him or where he's at or what,
He
but
passed away
I remember
several
him
years
well.
ago. He passed away several years ago, but he used to come into an accounting firm that I worked for,
Yes,
and I was able to talk politics with him, the things that were going on in Chicago. And one of the things that he would mention from time to time is his friendship with you.
he worked in healthcare and he was an
Mhm,
accountant, but I'm
mhm,
saying, but he also, we were working in healthcare at the
mhm,
time. So yes, we had lots of fun, and so I'm glad to know that you knew Clarence, and
mhm.
he was a wonderful gentleman,
Yes,
wonderful gentleman.
I do miss the conversations about Chicago politics with him. And he would mention his friendship with you very fondly.
Well, we had
That was
another
one of the
friend who
things.
was a Davis, whose name was Etta Davis,
Mhm.
and she and Clarence and I were all good friends. Our time has run out, so thank you so much. I see Gator Bradley here, probably waiting in the wings or whatever. And so I got to get on out of Dodge. But thank you so much for calling. And Clarence was a dear friend of mine, and I'm glad to know that he was a friend of yours. Well, next week's going to be a great week. Let's all do something special in memory and in honor of the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Have a good day, and I'm going to run out to the viewing for my good friend, Brother Richard Barnett. See you next week.